Live from our studios here in Kukumlimle in Accra, this is Joy News Prime. I am Emefa Apau. In our headlines this hour, EC chairperson accuses Parliament of undermining EC's efforts at organizing credible elections due to its failure to pass new CI.
The Commission, we find it unfortunate that our efforts to strengthen the credibility and integrity of our voters' register, and by extension our elections, by the introduction of the draft CI, did not receive the support of Parliament.
We have details as the Commission reluctantly proceeds to register new voters and organize district-level elections with the existing constitutional instrument. The Ghana Police Service this evening is also taking steps to revive public trust as it automates traffic fines to remove human interface. We'll get to hear from the driver unions who doubt the implementation process. Also, task force of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly detained ECG officers for disconnecting power at their facility. Thanks so much for your company once again. Let's dig in now. An Electoral Commission says Parliament is undermining its efforts at having a credible voters register to organize national elections in the country for more than a year. The Electoral Commission has failed to convince MPs to approve a new constitutional instrument which outlaws the use of the guarantor system to register as a voter. In its place, the Electoral Commission proposed to use the Ghana card as the sole identity document to register as a voter. While in a rare bipartisan move, both NPP and NDC MPs rejected this proposal, recommending to the EC to maintain the guarantor system, a position the EC disagrees with, maintaining its draft CI. Kwekwa Sante has more in the following report.
The Electoral Commission has been struggling to secure parliamentary support to change the existing constitutional instrument, but has failed. The new CI, if it becomes law, will make the Ghana card the sole identity document to register as a voter in Ghana. This will outlaw the guarantor system, which Jim Mensah explains is fraught with so many challenges.
As a commission that is determined to conduct credible, transparent, fair and peaceful elections, we were keen to establish and uphold the integrity of the foundational document, which is the voters' register. Hence our proposal to use the Ghana card as the sole document for identification of a person's citizenship as well as age. Our experience from the 2020 registration exercise, ladies and gentlemen, showed that several minors and foreigners using the window of the guarantor system found their way onto our roll. During the registration, some 40,000 minors and foreigners were challenged, and we managed to expunge some 15,000 minors and foreigners from the register. The question we asked ourselves is, why should we continue to use the guarantor system, which opens the door to corrupt and illegal practices and undermines the credibility of our register?
The EC chairperson, Madam Jim Mensah, is worried Parliament is not doing enough to support its effort at organizing credible elections.
As a commission, we find it unfortunate that our efforts to strengthen the credibility and integrity of our voters' register, and by extension our elections, by the introduction of the draft CI, did not receive the support of Parliament. Members of Parliament were of the view that the NIA should fully operationalize its mandate before the CI could be considered. Sadly, as we all know, the NIA has not fully commenced its operations nationwide due to a lack of resources. That leaves us with no option than to rely on the current CI with its inherent challenges to conduct a voters' registration exercise until such time as the NIA would become fully operational.
However, the Commission says it is not backing down and will not amend the proposed CI to include the guarantor system. The Electoral Commission has also announced modalities for voter registration exercise, which is scheduled for Tuesday, 12 September up to Monday, 2nd October in all its district offices nationwide. The district level election will also be held on the 19th of December this year.
Draft CI that is before Parliament, we do not intend to put back the guarantor system, because we do not believe that the guarantor system has augured well for us. 30 years ago, when we took this journey and we did not have, a Ghana card, it was only proper that we adopt a system that would ensure that people who didn't have any documentation could come on board. 30 years on, as an evolving democracy, we now have the Ghana card, and we are saying that we must rely on it by the very laws that Parliament made. That is the LI 2111. And it's the surest way of ensuring or guaranteeing the integrity of our register. What and who we are preventing are foreigners and minors, and they do not qualify. And so we intend to maintain the draft CI.
Kweku Asante for Joy News.
Well, on to some other stories now. In a scene of chaos erupted earlier Thursday at the premises of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. The confusion ensued as officials from the Electricity Company of Ghana attempted to disconnect the facility from the national grid due to unpaid bills. The AMA's task force team swiftly intervened, resisting the disconnection and temporarily detaining the ECG officials. My colleague Samuel Mbura witnessed the situation. He joins us on phone with details of this particular story. So Mbura, walk us through what exactly happened between the ECG and the AMA task force.
So the officials from the Electricity Company of Ghana were on their routine checks, and when they got to the AMA, the information I have is that the AMA owns about over 300,000 Ghana cedis that have not been paid to the ECG. So the officials went directly to the meters, to the main, the facility of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, removed their fuse, and immediately the light went out. The task force moved in towards the direction of the EC officials and asked them to fix it back, but that resulted in a scuffle, back and forth between them. That generated a crowd at the premises of the AMA. So the ECD were insisting that the AMA hasn't paid its debt, a reason they have to disconnect them from the national grid. So it was a back and forth. Eventually, the AMA task force had to lock the gate to prevent the EC officials from driving out. It took the intervention of the military, some 4 military officers who arrived at the premises to calm the tensions. At the time I was there, they gave me strict, instructions, not any visuals of them or any of the incident happening, but the videos calling now were taken much earlier before they discovered that I was around. So it was actually a tense atmosphere there, and eventually the EC officials, they had their way and disconnected the electricity, took off the fuse to the facility. So the AMA officers had no option than to use the power plant. So the officers told me that they wouldn't speak to me on record, but the coordinating director confirmed to me that they owe about 300,000 Ghana cedis. But they've made some payments. It's just the processes that have not reflected at the offices of the ECG, a reason they are having those challenges. So I was not actually given the audience either from the ECG side or the AMA. So I had to eventually leave the place. By the time I was leaving there, they were using their plants to supply power to the Accra Metropolitan Assembly, while the Ghana Armed Forces was in conversation with the EC and then the AMA official.
Okay, well, that's my colleague Samuel Mbura there giving us detail of that earlier scuffle between the Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, and then, of course, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly. Well, he's also been witnessing the automating of all road traffic fines in an attempt to remove the human interface, contributing to the reported cases of extortion of drivers by police officers. The technology dubbed Traffic Tech GH will capture videos and pictures of drivers flouting road traffic regulations and send offences via SMS. Defaulters have 14 days allowable time to pay their fines or attract a penalty of 1% each day afterwards. And my colleague Emmanuel Mbura once again was at the launch of this project and reports.
Amendments to the 2012 Road Traffic Regulations of LI 2180 grant offenders the legal right to challenge their violations. However, To exercise this right, they must pay the fine within 14 days from the issuance date. COP Francis E. Doku, Director General of the Motor Traffic and Transport Department of the Ghana Police Service, emphasized that this initiative aims not only to instill discipline but also curtail alleged extortion cases involving officers.
Oh, well, I cannot put my finger on the board, but I can tell you that we want to look at a 3-month sensitization, and then we'll start the piloting and see how it goes.
So let me find out from you, would this build the trust between the public and the Ghana Police Service?
Yeah, you see, digitization has come to stay, whether we like it or not. And once there is digitization, the issue of interface, human interface, is taken off. And so the police will now be deployed for other equally important duties.
And do you think this one will reduce the reported cases of alleged extortion from drivers?
My brother, if there is no interface, there is no human interface. Of course, these alleged corrupt practices will be eliminated.
Driver unions have expressed endorsement, yet their focus lies on the practical implementation of the project. David Aguado speaks for the commercial transport operators.
I'm very glad about this news because the whole world is transforming and we cannot be left behind. If they are going digital, I think it's okay. But you see, on my first question that I asked on the floor, that DVLA says they are going digital. And since DVLA says they are going digital, it's 2017 till now we didn't see anything digital about DVLA. If the police or the traffic tech Ghana is going to work, I'll be very happy because it's not going to leave out we the commercial drivers, neither the private drivers, neither the politicians. Everybody will be involved.
But addressing these concerns, David Safo Adontin, who is the Acting Director General of the National Road Safety Authority, assured that preparations are in place for a smooth execution of the project.
For example, we are now talking to the Department of Urban Roads to map up a strategy to see which ones we can strategically mount the cameras on and see how we can ensure constant flow of power or servicing or maintenance. So whatever the challenges are, the Ghana Police Service through this project are going to go into very strong collaboration and partnership, identify the critical problems that result in malfunctioning of some of these traffic lights and fix them. We can do it. And so it's just the beginning. We have the next 6 months to roll out this project, and I believe this period will give us enough time to be able to address all the gaps and challenges that we see coming up.
Meanwhile, the Traffic Tech GH project, which is under the Police Invisible Eyes Are Watching initiative, is set to undergo a pilot phase in Accra and Tema before its nationwide rollout. Reporting for Joy News, Samuel Mbura, Accra.
Now, the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, says it is prepared to face off with coup leaders and any other forces which may be giving backing to the military junta in Niger. Leaders from the sub-regional body, after a summit in Abuja last week, activated a standby force that will move into Niger and to reinstate the deposed President Mohamed Bazoum. Well, there are fears the situation may escalate into a full-blown war as Mali and Burkina Faso, which are all under military rulers, have vowed to fight against any ECOWAS intervention. Speaking on the sidelines of a meeting of security chiefs underway at Burma Camp, Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security Ambassador Fattau Musa said the sub-regional body has a unity of purpose in moving its troops to intervene and to restore constitutional order in Niger. Blessed Suga has a wrap of day one of a meeting by these West African chiefs of defense staff.
The first phase of the engagement have actually wrapped up here at Burma Camp, and we know that, of course, the essence of the meeting today is to have all of the military chiefs, all of the chiefs of defense from West African countries converge here to discuss the decision which borders on the deployment of a military troop into the Republic of Niger. The whole idea is to ensure that there is the reinstatement of President Mohamed Bazoum, and also constitutional order is restored to the Republic of Niger. And the background to it is that the Republic of Niger experienced a coup deter at the end, just at the tail end of last month, a reason for which we have all of these meetings happening. Now, the last meeting or summit of the ECOWAS leaders actually happened in Abuja. Now, after that meeting, the heads of states actually decided to operationalize, or if we could use that word, activate an ECOWAS standby force. That was the basic decision of the leaders of the West Africa sub-region. Subsequent to that, we know that ECOWAS formed a committee of chiefs of defense staff who will now look at the operational methods that will be used by the sub-regional body in terms of the deployment methods, what should be done, and how that can be approached from a technical point of view. It's the reason for which we are at Burma camp today. We saw the likes of the Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwo. We had the Chief of Defense Staff for the Committee of West African States, the Chief of Defense Staff for the Republic of Nigeria, joining the meeting which is underway here at Burma camp.
I mean, you could see determination. You could see unity of purpose among our military chiefs, the chiefs of defense staff, all very determined, and they are just putting the final touches to their operational plans and then get our troops ready. This is more or less a bit like a pledging. What is the meeting? Because the concept of operation is already ready. It's ready. All the factors have been taken into account. What are the potential obstacles, how to overcome them? All these were taken into account in the planning session, right? So this meeting is just to refine what we have while preparing for possible intervention. And my interaction with the chiefs of defense staff, of course, of all the member states that are here, was that they are all determined.
Determined to go, and the question is when.
Not when, I'm not going to tell you, because I'm not, because that's an operational secret. When you tell them we are going to start marching tomorrow, then you give them advance notice, to defend. So we know when the military could go in, and up till now there are diplomatic overtures from ECOWAS, from other willing partners and others. We are giving diplomacy maximum opportunity, to succeed. What we are saying is that if that fails, there is this other option. And this is what we are doing, and we are not letting off, despite the fake news and then the misinformation.
And I believe the fake news you're talking about is the fact that you do not have African Union support and the support from the United Nations, correct?
That is with the African Union, that is also fake news. Has anybody read the communique of the African Union Peace and Security Council? I was there, participated, in it. What you are hearing, of course, when you have a situation like this, you are going to have different opinions. What matters is what comes out of the communique. So everybody should wait for the communique, and then you realize that the African Union Peace and Security Council supports all the measures being taken by ECOWAS to restore constitutional order. They've condemned it, and many of them are even calling for the suspension of Niger.
Ambassador Fatou, are you mindful of the possible implication for the sub-region? Mali, Burkina Faso have said that they would, support the Nigerian junta if you decide to go in. Are you mindful of a possibility of a full-blown war?
We are very mindful of that, and in the planning phase, all these factors were taken into account. I can tell you confidently, that these ECOWAS standby force troops are ready to take on all comers. This is what I will tell you, and that the threats or whatever by Burkina Faso, Mali have all been taken on board.
Meanwhile, Ghana's Defense Minister Dominic Nitiwo is urging the ECOWAS chiefs of defense to remain loyal to their presidents and the sub-regional body on the decision of the deployment of forces.
If presidential guards in Guinea and Niger, I will use the word take hostage their president, nobody, and let me repeat, nobody in West Africa is safe. That is why I urge you to continue to be loyal to your heads of states. I urge you to continue to be loyal to ECOWAS directives and to give effect that the days that coup d'etats enjoy the support of our people are over. Yes, in democracy, people will agree to disagree. But the vast majority of our people, the vast majority of our people in West Africa do not want to be under the difficulties that we are facing today. You have the right, as men in uniform, to ask your governments for what you will need to be able to defend your nations. You have the right to ask your governments to give you the tools to defend the territorial integrities of your nations, to ensure that your nations remain peaceful. You have the right to ensure that your people choose your leaders in a free and fair manner. But the world will disagree. ECOWAS will disagree. The people of ECOWAS will disagree when you choose, or people under you choose, to take hostage the people that your constitution gives power to.
Away from the Defense Minister, Dominic Niti will remember also that that meeting continues tomorrow. But in its related developments, the Forum of Kings and Traditional Leaders of Africa have called for an immediate end to the instability in Niger. Addressing the press in Aflao, President of the Forum, Tobiga Ajonugaga Amenya Fiti V, cautioned ECOWAS to avoid taking a hasty decision for military intervention. Ivy Setoji has the rest of the story.
At a press conference by His Royal Majesty Tobiga Ajonugaga Amenya Fiti V, who is also the Daho, paramount king of the Afro traditional area, he noted that there is a need for Africans to be united for a common purpose, devoid of all forms of political crisis like coup, wars, and other negative activities. His Royal Highness Tobiga Fiti noted that the recent coup has really shaken the very foundation of the democratic principles and threatened the stability and progress of the African continent. He noted that the African kings and traditional leaders are very worried about the situation and have been deliberating on what exactly to do in their little ways to help in bringing some sort of peace to Niger.
The foundation of our democratic principle and threaten the stability and progress of our great continent in the context of the AU Agenda 2026, and I quote, "The Africa we want," unquote, and the ongoing preparation for implementation of the African Continent Free Trade Agreement, AFCTA. In addressing these critical issues, the Forum recalls and appreciates the historical commitment of traditional leaders in fostering dialogue and mediation for peaceful conflict resolution within and among their communities and today's nation states of Africa. The current political situation in Niger, coupled with the existent uprising environment in the Sahel region, has the potential to undermine the democratic governance and instability and total anarchy in West Africa.
Toby Fiti recounted the incident in Libya and Liberia some years ago and the negative effects it's hard on the two countries and has therefore urged African leaders to learn from the past and let peace prevail.
Interference in Libya after killing of Gaddafi and destroying property and lives. Today, why do we have in Libya to boast of? It's not just a matter of interference. We are saying that it's not just a matter of interference. We should count the loss after the interference. If it is better, then we should go forward. After the NATO's interference in Liberia, I'm saying we should count the cost. Are the Libyans better off today than the eras of Gaddafi? Are we to sacrifice the lives of Nigerians, their properties and everything, just because of coup d'etat? We should consider what the experience in Côte d'Ivoire, Gbagbo and Ouattara. Many lives were lost.
Well, away from that, former Minister for Sanitation and Water Resources Cecilia Abunadapa is fighting off claims that the property found in her house and the cash in her bank accounts are tainted properties. She says the Office of the Special Prosecutor is in a flagrant breach of its own enabling law and is merely seeking to perpetrate an arbitrary exercise based on nothing more than suspicion, fraud by misrepresentation and media frenzy. The OSP is in court seeking to confirm the freezing of Madame Cecilia Dapa's account and also seizure of properties found in her home. Richard Kojonyako is with our legal desk. Here's more.
The court was a virtual one as lawyers for the OSP and that of the former minister, Cecilia Abunadapa, joined the meeting virtually to make the argument on the application filed by the OSP seeking to confirm the freezing of the account of Madame Cecilia Dapa and also the seizure of the properties found in her matrimonial home. The OSP contends that the move is to facilitate its investigations on corruption and corruption-related offences. According to the OSP, Madame Cecilia Dapa has several homes, and the fact also reveals the ownership of the amount of money found in her home and in her account remain in dispute, and the sources and origins of the money also remain highly doubtful. Hence, the OSP triggered its investigative powers. The OSP also says on the 24th of July 2023, his office, upon a search conducted at the residence of the former minister, led to the discovery of huge sums of money staked in the house, consisting of an amount of $590,000 and 2.7 million Ghana cedis. This was after the OSP says it initiated investigations into suspected corruption against Madame Cecilia Dapa following information arising from the criminal case. The OSP prayed the court to grant the application to confirm the seizure and the freezing of the properties of the former minister. The OSP, however, did not mention the amount of money standing to the credit of the former minister in the banks. Lawyer for the former minister, Victoria Bad, opposed the application. She submitted that the application before the court has been brought in contravention of the very statutory provisions that the OSP purports to rely on in invoking the jurisdiction of the court. She indicated that the fact that the sums of money were found in Madame Dapa's matrimonial home is not enough ground to suspect or imply that those sums of money are tainted property. Likewise, she says there is no basis to suspect that the monies in Madame Dapa's account are tainted property, especially when banks are routinely required on a daily basis to report suspicious transactions. And thus, the assertion that the OSP needs to freeze the account to facilitate investigations is unjustified, since every information he requires in the alleged suspicion of tainted property will be contained in the bank statement. For her, the application has been brought in flagrant breach of the OSP's own enabling legislation and seeks to perpetrate an arbitrary exercise of powers based on nothing more than suspicion fueled by misrepresentation of fact and resultant media frenzy, and that the court should resist the temptation to be enmeshed in illegality. It was also revealed in court by the OSP that both the former minister and the husband were placed under arrest and granted bail. In fact, the court has adjourned its ruling to the 31st of August for determination of this case. Reporting from the court complex, my name is Richard Kwejenya Akon for Joy News.
Let's take a quick break here on Joy News Prime. We'll return with more. Please do stay with us. This is Joy News Prime live, also on myjoyonline.com and all our social media platforms, live on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV is 125. Here on Joy News Prime this evening, we bring you a special and exclusive with the Chief of Staff of deposed President Mohamed Bazoum, and joining us live with my colleague, head of the Special Relations Desk, I should say Diplomatic Affairs and International Relations Desk, Blessed Soga, joins us with him. He's Jibu Takubakoyi Dauda, and of course Winston Amwa will be on standby also to bring us translation of that interview, because he'll be speaking French. Blessed, if you can hear me, you can take it away.
Well, MFA, just from the start of today, we pointed out to you that the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, and their defense chiefs have been holding a meeting at the national headquarters of the military. That's Burma Camp today, which we brought to you live on the Joy News channel. And today happens to be day one. We're expecting that the activities will wrap up by tomorrow. And it's got to do with the security situations happening in the West Africa sub-region. The decision by the group of West African leaders under the protocol of ECOWAS is to activate a standby force which will be deployed into the Republic of Niger. Now, that's because a military junta there decided to depose the democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum. As we speak, the ECOWAS leaders want a solution to the matter, but the junta would not dialogue on the matter, and we know that that issue keeps unfolding. We're fortunate to have one man who was close to President Mohamed Bazoum. He was Chief of Staff at the time President Mohamed Bazoum was in office. Fortunately, he's been able to run for his life, escaped into the Republic of Ghana, and will be joining, hopefully, the military chiefs to brief them on the engagements that will be going to unfold at Burma Camp, the military headquarters, from tomorrow when we get a briefing from the sub-regional body. Jibu Dauda was the former Chief of Staff and the right-hand man of President Mohamed Bazoum. And the time he was in office, he was in fact in the country when the coup d'etat happened, but found a way of escaping and made his way right here into Ghana. So we're about to interact with him. Obviously, Niger is a French-speaking country, so you have to accommodate his French, and then of course we'll get to give you some translation of some of the key issues that are at stake here. Jibu Dauda, you're live on the Joy News channel. The nation is listening to you right now. I don't need to ask you how you're doing, because obviously things are not too well for you and the Nigerian public. But let's start off with how you made it into Ghana. What was your story? How did you leave Niger, even when the coup happened, when you were in that country? How did you run for your life and to make it right here into the Republic of Ghana?
Thank you for everything. But before answering your question, I want to correct something.
Right.
I'm not the former Chief of Staff. I'm the Chief of Staff of the President of the Republic of Niger.
You don't accept that you've been deposed?
Mohamed Bazoum, who is still the elected President of Niger, then is not the former President. He is the President of the Republic of Niger, the elected one. This attempt to depose him is still ongoing, and it will finish in
So you don't even accept that you've been deposed?
No. Bazoum is still the President of the Republic of Niger, recognized by all the countries in the world, except of course Mali and Burkina Faso, that are in the same situation.
But you can't go back home now because your president is no more. There's a new prime minister, there's a new cabinet.
Il n'y a pas de premier ministre, il n'y a pas de nouveau cabinet, tout ça est nul est de nul effet. Le président Mohamed Bazoum est le président de la République du Niger et le seul président de la République du Niger reconnu par tous.
So basically what he's trying to say, and for those of you who may not understand, is that they do not accept being the former chief of staff. He does not, first of all, accept that there's a new cabinet. He does not accept that there's a new president. He does not accept that there's a new leader of the Nigerian people. All he accepts right now is the fact that there is only one president in the Republic of Niger, and that is President Mohamed Bazoum, who was democratically elected. Now, I'm going to ask you about President Mohamed Bazoum, because I need to ask you how he's doing right now, how he's faring. After the coup d'etat happened, you were there trying to fight back. It didn't work, so you left, but he's being detained now. How is he feeling now as we speak?
Le président de la République va très bien. Il a le moral très haut et il est prêt à se battre pour la démocratie, pour la liberté, pour la justice au Niger. Donc le président de la République va très bien, il a le moral très très haut. Certes, les conditions de vie sont déplorables parce que depuis l'événement du 26 juillet, la junte a mis tout en œuvre pour le démoraliser, pour le faire ramener à un état réduit, mais c'est sans compter sur sa force morale. Donc le président de la République va très bien.
Okay, so basically he's making the point that when you talk about President Mohamed Bazoum, he's in high spirit, good spirit. In fact, morally, his morale is high. He's not down or, dampened. His spirit is not dampened by the fact that there's a new military junta that is controlling the country, except to say that he's been detained. And naturally, when you're detained, your rights are restricted. You do not have the right to move. You do not have the right to make certain natural, adjustments which he would have done when he was head of state. So that is the only confinement in which he finds himself, except to say that he still believes that he's the president of the republic and is in good spirit. I guess that's the point of what the point you're making. Now, you're saying that he's in good health. If he's in good health and is in a high morale, he's been deposed by the military junta, and we've seen the military junta receiving a lot of support. I don't know if it's just my impression, but they seem to be receiving a lot of support. You take a look at when the coup happened, they staged a rally at a stadium, and in that stadium, lots of people filling up the stadium to capacity. It does suggest that there's just something right with this coup d'etat and the military regime that is controlling. People appear to be supporting them. Is that not the case?
Sur ça, ce que je veux vous dire, d'abord, sachez que dans des situations comme ça, c'est toujours le populisme qui prend le dessus sur tout ce qui est rationnel. Alors, donc, la junte nigérienne n'a pas fait exception. Quand il y a eu le coup d'État, la vraie manifestation s'est tenue le premier jour du coup d'État. Il y avait eu une manifestation spontanée. Moi, j'étais dans la manifestation, j'avais conduit cette manifestation. C'était des milliers et des milliers de Nigériens qui étaient sortis pour dire non au coup d'État. Ils ont tiré à balles réelles sur les gens. 4 personnes étaient sévèrement blessées. C'est ce qui a démotivé les gens ce jour-là. Après, eux-mêmes, pour se donner bonne conscience, ils ont organisé un simulacre de manifestation où ils ont pris toutes les nouvelles recrues des militaires, les nouvellement recrues, et leurs familles qu'ils ont habillées en t-shirt. Certains d'ailleurs n'ont pas eu le temps de se déshabiller, d'enlever leur habit militaire pour mettre leur habit civil quand ils sont venus à la manifestation. Et si vous regardez, quand ils ont attaqué l'ambassade de France, celui qui a été blessé au pied, que vous voyez dans les manifestations qu'on avait prises, c'est un colonel-major de l'armée. Donc, les manifestants ne sont pas des gens, des civils qui sont contents, la plupart qui sont contents du régime militaire.
Why are you arguing so? Why so?
Parce que c'est ce que je veux de vous dire. La plupart des manifestants, quand vous regardez même à la télévision, ils ont encore le treillis militaire, le t-shirt militaire. Et celui qui a été blessé à l'ambassade de France le jour où ils ont fait la grande manifestation, parce que la riposte a fait que les gens étaient obligés de tirer des gaz lacrymogènes sur eux. Il y a un qui était blessé au pied, c'était un colonel-major de l'armée. Donc, ça veut dire que la plupart des manifestants Ce sont des éléments, les nouvelles recrues de l'armée qu'ils ont fait sortir. Ça, c'est un premier point. Le deuxième point, sachez que le Niger compte 8 régions. Oui. Parmi les 8 régions, c'est uniquement Niamey où il y a eu des manifestants. Dans toutes les capitales, c'est l'opposition qui est forte en Afrique. Principalement au Niger, l'opposition est très forte à Niamey. Donc ils ont fait sortir les militants de l'opposition. Le parti politique de l'opposition du leader Hama Amadou qui est à Paris actuellement, il a écrit une lettre pour demander à ces gens de sortir pour soutenir la manifestation. Donc voilà la manifestation de Niamey. Mais quand vous regardez les médias, quand vous regardez les télévisions, vous voyez que dans tous les pays, dans toutes les autres régions, nos gens ont manifesté, y compris à Niamey, où ils ont été tirés à balles réelles.
So basically the point the former chief of staff is making is that we should disregard what is happening on the televisions as we see it, and also making the point that what we have is that the military is just inviting people to create the impression as though they have legitimacy, but they do not have legitimacy based on what we're seeing on the screens, and that they are just bringing their cronies and bringing people who align with them to fill the stadium. So we shouldn't believe what we're seeing on the television. Beyond that, the second point is that Niamey is the smallest region out of the 8 regions that we have in the Republic of Niger, except to say that when you take a look at all of the regions in the Republic of Niger, Niamey is the smallest, although it is the capital. Now that side has a lot of support from the opposition political parties, and we had leading figures of the opposition political parties that incited the public against President Mohamed Bazoum, a reason for which it is creating the impression as though nationally there is support for the military, except to say that in the capital, as we speak, they do not have support or legitimacy. So that's the point you're making. Now ECOWAS says that they want to go in and to intervene in this military regime or coup d'etat that we've seen in the Republic of Niger. There is a question as to whether or not you believe in that intervention. Lots of criticisms against the decision to intervene. Do you support that move as, you know, someone who's worked closely with President Mohamed Bazoum? Do you feel that force is the way to do this, by ECOWAS deploying a force to deal with this?
Merci pour cette question. Déjà, la première chose que je vais vous dire, la CEDEAO a pris ces mesures pas de gaieté de cœur, et c'est des mesures légitimes et légales. La CEDEAO, dans sa constitution, dans ses statuts et ses règlements, prévoit l'usage de la force en cas de renversement d'un régime démocratiquement élu. Donc la CEDEAO a bien, et dans son rôle, en imposant des sanctions contre la junte, et aussi en brandissant la menace d'utilisation de la force. Ce qui est tout à fait normal parce que, comme je le disais, ça fait partie des statuts. Aujourd'hui, si la junte abandonne son projet de prendre le pouvoir par la force, la CEDEAO va abandonner toutes les sanctions et la force ne sera pas utilisée. Mais comme vous le constatez, ici, la CEDEAO est prête à intervenir et ce n'est pas de la blague. Ceux qui doutent, je crois qu'à partir de cet instant, doivent arrêter de douter et savoir que la CEDEAO est très sérieuse et que si la junte ne revient pas sur son projet de renverser le régime démocratiquement élu, l'intervention aura lieu comme ça a eu lieu déjà dans plus de 4 pays. Il y a eu la Gambie, il y a eu la Côte d'Ivoire, il y a eu Sierra Leone, il y a eu le Libéria. Donc ce n'est pas pour la première fois que la CEDEAO va intervenir. Et j'aimerais profiter de votre antenne aussi pour dire à ceux qui pensent que c'est une guerre contre le Niger, ce n'est pas une guerre contre le Niger. De la même façon que le coup d'État n'est pas une opération militaire compliquée, le contre-coup d'État de la CEDEAO aussi ne sera pas une opération militaire compliquée ou bien une guerre contre le Niger. il n'y aura pas de guerre contre le Niger. La CEDEAO va intervenir et je peux vous assurer qu'il n'y aura aucune victime, que ce soit civile ou militaire. Ils vont abandonner leur projet.
Okay. My colleague Winston Amoa is also listening in. Winston, you want to come in now to explain what he said? My colleague Winston Amwa, but basically, just to break down some of the issues that the former chief of staff has been talking about. He's making the point basically that in terms of the military intervention from ECOWAS, we need to acknowledge the fact, first of all, that there is a framework or a legal regime under which ECOWAS operates. ECOWAS has a statute which binds all countries, and that statute permits for the defense of the democracy of all other countries. And so based on that, they believe that ECOWAS has the right to intervene, first of all, in the situation. There's a second point about precedence, and the point is making about precedence is that ECOWAS has done that before by going into some other territories, by, of course, intervening in some destabilization situations in the sub-region. So this is the reason for which they believe that ECOWAS does have, the right to go in. So let's still now.
So that's an interaction between my colleague Blessed Soga and the man who is supposed to be the chief of staff of Mohamed Bazoum, Jibo Takobakoyi Dauda. They're interacting with Blessed Soga because we really do not get everything that he's saying. We'll bring the full interview to you with all the translations so that you can be a part of the interview. Please do stay with us. This is Joy News Prime. There's more when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Beverly Broom comes up next with Joy Prime Business. Please do stay. Have a good evening.